Alright, so all I'm going to say is have a look at the turn count. Yeah. I'm WG and it's already time for our E0 Tiphera showcase, and that is because I found 3 really insane ways to build your Tiphera to make the most out of her and to have her utterly dominate. So the 3 ways we'll be talking about is going to be the NUKE build, the Mega AP build, and then the Retain build. Alright, so let's start with the Tiphera we'll be using here. First off, she is E0 as you can see right here, and memory fragment wise, just for the damage purposes and in general because I can't really be bothered always swapping around, I'm not giving her a support set for this video, so this is what we have. We have a broken set as well as a defense, so a 2-piece between crit damage and defense, as well as also if you have a look, our unique potential is indeed maxed out, though our defense is on 3 out of 5 and our crit chance is on 1 out of 5, giving us our final stats of at the moment 378 defense on 48.9% crit chance and 198% crit damage. That is going to be the Tiphera we'll be using, and we'll also be pairing her up with her own partner, but her partner, it really doesn't make a difference. You can use whatever partner you want, preferably someone that gives defense, so units that come to mind would especially be somebody like an Alyssa, and yeah, it's really not about what the partner does, though it does help, all things considered. It at least helps that we're also getting 6% crit chance, making it a bit more likely for us to crit. Oh yeah, and I guess before I forget about it, main sets are defense, order, crit chance. Alright, enough explaining, let's actually go into the run so I can show it to you, because otherwise things are just gonna get confusing because there's so many moving parts, so many interactions in here, they're just hard to grasp just looking at save data. And for your information, we have Yuri on both Orlea and Ray, just so we can get ourselves some extra draw to smooth out any turns where, for example, we just get unlucky with our draws or things just don't go at our way. And yeah. So turn 1, what I want to do is use snack time on our Ebony Lumen. So Ebony Lumen's entire purpose is I can use snack time to take it out of our deck, exhaust it, and give us 3 additional draw right here. And then we also get a 4th draw, and that is because we're using the snack time to exhaust the card, meaning we get quite a good deal of value out of this one. So now next step is just making sure we clean up our hand. And it is not that important that your turn 1, regardless of how it goes here, it's a bit hard to say sometimes, it's not that important that your turn 1 fully clears out your deck and that you're being hyper efficient. What is more important is that it's just going to take a turn 2, maybe even 3, then at that point longer. So what we've done here is, again, we are trying to see if we can predict the next card to come. Here with the snack time, this is one of the major cards I want to get rid of. If possible, I want to get rid of anything that is not an upgrade card or not an exhaust card, so that we have as few cards as possible that we can hypothetically draw into, making sure that our runs go a lot smoother. Once again, we are drawing ourselves another card. I'm predicting Circle. We are going 0 for, I don't know, 100. We now have the dual creation in, meaning that at least after every 2 creations we get additional cards, or we actually get even more cards so long as we guess correctly. Yeah, so that's basically that. Here we can use the Broken Lumen to draw ourselves even more cards, just so we can continue with our rotation. We now have all our growing creatures in hand, which is quite nice. Again, archetypes, and every time we use those we also get some upgrades here. Like for example, this Event Horizon actually costs us -1 AP, gives us an additional draw and 80% attack. Sometimes we get more draw, sometimes we get more damage boost. It truly doesn't make too much of a difference for us in reality. So yeah, we just continue drawing, we just continue what we're doing. And here as well, we can also just use the snack time to exhaust the snack time, because there isn't really any other like big exhaust targets that I have. Now, if you're wondering, okay, what the hell just happened there? What was I even looking at? That is gear perk. It's completely random, it's not important, but when drawing an exhaust card of this unit through an ally ability, we activate it immediately at 1 time per turn. So what we at this point can also do, and what you might have to do, at least until you get more experience with this deck, is we play out the Resonating Darkness to make the extra deck space so that we can now play the card out and have things go the way we want them to go. So there we go, and you see we still draw the same card, it still activates, it still draws an additional card, but we now have 2 Contaminated Spores instead of just 1. And yeah, the game plan here now is just for us to make sure that we draw through as many cards as possible. You can see we basically played our entire deck besides just 1. We still have the Event Horizon in our hand. And yeah, let's just see if we can make some hand space. So we play the Event Horizon, we get some AP, we get the final draw, we have all our cards in hand. And yeah, I think we're actually going to go this time with Spores. Usually I use the double retain on the growing creatures instead of the spores, but I feel like for this first turn that doesn't seem like too dumb of an idea. Here we can then already trigger the softy retain on all of them so that they're ready and start retaining for us starting from the next turn. And we are also going to cut down our hand all the way down to only having 1 Contaminated Spore, and we're also going to get rid of the form conversions, and that is because we are already only going to draw 4 cards next turn. Instead of the usual 5. That's because we just want that additional little bit of extra spore value. So yeah, let's see what else do we want to do here. Obviously making hand space early is always a good idea, so that we can now again predict circle. You can see we again in fact did not hit circle. We're using the I think we're actually going to use up the archetype right here. But if you're wondering why are then there still things getting put into the deck if you're not getting the right one, that is just because of the dual creation triggering every 2 creations. So once again, surely it's going to be circle, right? And it was in fact circle, so that now we can also get form upgrade 1, use this one to draw ourselves more cards. Here, these ones are also going to draw ourselves even more. It is important that we just play out all of them to make sure that our hand is as empty as possible, so we have more options. And also, yeah, there's some damage boosts and the like in here. And you can see, for example, here, we now get a 1 AP cost for draw. This deck is, it's a deck that definitely challenges you to, yeah, I don't know, to try and play things as perfectly as possible, because there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of things to this that you might have to pay attention to, and a lot of things that can change. But overall, even though it looks like this has so much RNG that you don't even know what exactly is going on, it really does not have that much RNG, because there's so many different ways that you can find success with this that it doesn't even really make a difference what exactly is happening. So, alright, we have 1 exhaust here, and you see we have the 4 cost. We could now exhaust all the softies and try to gamble on getting the perfect creation and destruction after we play them all out, but we can also just do 1 more turn. So we're going to end this here turn 3 instead of turn 2, because I really like the way this round is going so far. So once again we get rid of 1 contaminated spot just to make some space. We again have Event Horizon in our hand, which is going to now start stacking these upgrades, stacking these extra effects. We again apparently guessed wrong, but we're not really going to be bothering with that too much. We're going to try again, and at some point you can see right here, for example, we get the thing correct, and then life is pretty good. As I said before, as I mentioned before, I think I'm actually going to, in this case, retain the softies just for a 70% multiplicative instead of the contaminated spores to like additionally and continue to stack them up. But I'm still not 100% sure what exactly is better here or what is worse. So let's make sure that we at least have a bit of hand size. I think we're just going to end the turn here anyway. So let's just get rid of the contaminated spore, make some hand size, so we can draw ourselves some of these archetype cards. The entire point is obviously for the archetype cards to either give us AP or to give us more of a damage buff, and also help us trigger Event Horizon. So right here, Event Horizon at no cost, 1 draw and the damage buff, also allowing us to draw into our Will of Light, and then we still have 2 more cards in our hand. So we can actually activate the Will of Light here already. And this is the reason why we got the Yuri partners. Like for example right here, we can now use that to make sure that we actually draw everything we want in our entire hand. And then here with the archetype 0, we try and see if we can predict what we can get. Draw some more archetype cards. Also, these are going to be like our, attempts, you could almost say, at getting the cost reduction. So now our goal is going to be getting as close as possible to 6 AP cost. And the moment we do that, that is when we are going to be able to succeed. So in this case, 5 cost has to be enough. So we actually have a multiplier of 1826%. That is then getting multiplied by 5. So there's still 4 more multiplicatives. We could actually have, in this case, instead of 9,000, we could have had an additional 4,000 on top already. And then you see right here, bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. Before we do that though, let's have a look at the final output. So something that is kind of insane on Tiphera is we have the Glorious Range set. This comes from Alea for 15%. Strike of Darkness you can ignore. Archetype, we've managed to in 3 turns fully stack the Triangle Archetype for a 300% bonus. Resonating Darkness is irrelevant. Event Horizon. So even though they have the same way that they're being formulated, the Event Horizon damage amount increase of the first hit of the next attack card is separate from the damage amount that you can gain through the triangular cards right here. So you're actually able to stack 2, meaning we have not only a 300%, but also a 240%. What we then also have right here is our Softy Retain at 700%, Softy Use at 95%, because you can still see we have one of them in our hand. And then we have the Star in the Darkness, increases the damage amount of the next attack card of allies used by 30%, once again helping us, as well as also the 6% crit chance. You know, we do have one more undo, so how about we try it out? As you can see, we go down to 1 cost, which, not that optimal, but it really is to the point that sometimes playing suboptimally but having a higher cost creation and destruction just severely outdoes anything else you could be doing. What we then also have is the 50% vulnerable on the boss, 45% spore propagation, and then again the fact that we are indeed type effective, bringing us to our full, you can see, almost half HP cut, but with a crit we should be pretty much fine. You can see we are looking at 4,454% at 22,140 in turn 3. 37,600 and the like, meaning this guy would have been one shot if I hit my crit, which we unfortunately didn't. Alright, and how about we do the clip justice? Take a look at this. This is turn 2. Turn 2, no softies played. The contaminated spore also not played. This is again same team, same build up, just a different different way of the run going. And then as you see right here, we have 15% from the glory, only 180 out of 300, only 160 instead of the 240, only 350 instead of the 800. Then the Star in the Darkness at its 30% and the 6 crit chance, combined with, in this case, the vulnerable, which is the same, but only a 20% spore bonus. But that's still, like, the cost goes over everything. I mean, look at this, 71,000 damage. Not only is this a turn earlier, but also with a lot less multipliers, right? A turn earlier. So now if you're wondering, okay, but how the hell do you actually reliably get to 9 AP? That pretty much has to do with, for example, with us using the gamble, the gamble archetype creation. Is that, will the archetype creation create a circle, or will we at least be correct on our guess, allowing us to then get the entirety of the cards instead of just a circle? So, yeah, right? Like, will we create a circle even though we are wrong, or would we create a circle regardless of our guess so that we get the entire library? Which now makes me think, wouldn't it be smarter for us to not pick a circle as our guess target? Because that then means, at least if it's not a circle, which would be good for us, we at least have a 50-50 chance of still getting a circle. You know what? You never learn everything, and there's always more to figure out. Honestly, my closing thoughts on the like one-shot mega DPS build, while it looks very complicated from the outside in, while you might not have entirely understood what exactly I've done throughout this run, it's just something that you get used to over time, and you should definitely give this deck a shot, especially if you're farming for something else and by chance find yourself in a situation where you are indeed getting the creation and destruction, where you're getting that 9 cost 1 with the 30%. So if you find this, do think and try to see if you can make it happen. Now, is this entirely mega viable? Do you need this for like the tower? Where exactly would you use this? So the thing is, you're at least at minimum able to do around like 17,000 damage just in a singular turn consistently every single turn, even if you just stack for just one turn. So in tower you're probably easily going to annihilate pretty much everything. Is this deck Great Rift viable? Honestly, I don't think so, right? And the big problem here is because my guy has 2 hands and then his face, which means you at minimum need 3 attack cards, right? 1 for the first hand, 1 for the second hand, and then 1, 2, 3, however many, or just a singular one to hit him into the face. So the entire concept of stacking up these creations and destructions just to do like one big boom into his face might be possible, but I can't instantly see a way to make that happen. If you know of a way, let us know down in the comments below. But let's actually go into the next deck. Did you ever have a lot of ideas, a lot of things you wanted to play, a lot of cards you wanted to play, but they cost AP, and that's kind of annoying? It's like, hey, I just want to play this card, but why can't I? Where are my resources? That is where Mega AP Tiphera comes in. So, Mega AP Tiphera is using, yeah, a very simple card, and that is the Quantum Seed. The Quantum Seed allows you to select any of the 3 archetypes and then get 1 and create 1 in your draw pile. So you create 1 in hand, 1 in the draw pile, and also in combination with a dual creation, you in fact get a 3rd copy guaranteed every single time. So that means with just one of these Quantum Seeds, we can create not just 1 circle, not just 2 circuits, but actually 3. So 3 circuits just from 1 card, and then obviously, if possible, to make this entire thing a lot smoother, if you can get the additional draw that helps with deck cycling, that makes this all work together better. Otherwise, you can also bring draw from the outside in from a 3rd character. In our case, we're actually just using a we're just using a Ray to once again get rid of a few annoying cards and just have like our turn 1 go a bit better. And in this case, it's just going to be Tiphera plus Ray. So then the other one that we need to talk about here is going to be our beautiful form conversions. Form conversions will draw us 3 more archetypes. The important part about these archetypes is that in fact we can only draw, let's say, circles, or we can only draw triangles. And that means that, we have a 50% chance to get 1 additional AP just through this form conversions alone. And what better character to show off the fact that we have a crap ton of AP to play than a 9 and her hues. So, a 9 and her hues. Here we just have a hue extreme. We have 1 fighting spirit. In a optimal world, you probably want maybe like 2 fighting spirits together with a 9, and you usually don't need these ebony lumens. We just have them here because we can, and that's the closest deck I found to just having Hue, Counterblade, and a fighting spirit, besides being like entirely empty, right? We could obviously use a deck like this as well. You know what? Might as well, for the sake of this, make it super simple. You have 1 Hue extreme, you have 1 Counterblade, yeah, 1 fighting spirit, and that's the entirety of the deck. Alright, so then let's get into it. Deck's as simple as it can get, and gameplay wise this should be a lot easier to understand, a lot of less things going on this screen in comparison to what you've seen with the last attempt with the Mega Run, because there's a lot more moving parts in that one. So here we just use our Ray to get rid of undesirable parts, give us a bit of additional AP just so we can play out our setup cards, like for example the Strike Darkness here and whatnot, get rid of that bleed, and So, Quantum Seed, super simple. We get ourselves the circle one, we create the circle one, we get an additional AP for playing it. We also here have the Event Horizon, which we can now play with one draw. It's just so we can, yeah, continue having that first turn flow as best as possible, which then gives us our Quantum Seed, where we can again select the circle, get more circuits, play out the circle. At this point, honestly, we can even use the Creation and Destruction. It really does not make a difference. We got that one because we hit 0 AP. And oh, you might have been able to guess it, but we're going to get ourselves a circle and then play the circles. And then right here, to the surprise of hopefully absolutely nobody, get even more circuits where they have 1 AP, 2 AP, 2 AP, 1 AP. So we can just use up these beautiful circuits. And yeah, we have in this case, for this turn 1, we would have a hypothetical of 7 AP. What you also need to imagine is this thing obviously going a lot longer and becoming easier and easier the more turns you do it. Like for example here, we now have this snack time ray. And just for the sake of making sure we draw the cards we want to draw, we're actually going to get rid of one of these AP epiphanies. Honestly, this ray is a lot less useful than she was the last turn, but yeah, we're just gonna make sure we get ourselves our extra draw, get a bit of extra AP, and then just have our combo start going. The more cards we can get rid of turn 1, the more freedom we'll have with the following turns. So yeah, straightforward, pretty simple. I want a circuit, give it to me now. We get a bunch of circuits, we can play a bunch of circuits, and you can see our AP counter rising. Now, here's an interesting part about this boss, and that is, in fact, he does not go above 9 AP. So, we are going to play our first card, and then we're going to continue with our AP generation, because otherwise we'd, just pretty much be missing out on AP for no reason. Once again, we have the ability to draw all of these circuits. This one got 2 AP, this one got 2 AP, this one instead got a heal. Once again, just for the sake of it, we're going up to the 9 AP again. You can still see we still have a bunch of AP to play. Here we even get ourselves a break. And yeah, Fighting Spirit we're going to use on the final 3 cost, because the final card itself would only be 2 cost. We still have our Hue here. And now if you imagine this being like an entire turn that we didn't start into, right, that we didn't start into, it's already a Hue level 1, we would have been able to play the entirety of the Hue row in 1. And what we could also do is try and get ourselves even more cards. Like for example, we could get ourselves even more AP with the partner here, or we would be able to EP skill redraw to just continue doing this turn, but obviously there's no point to it, seeing as how for this turn we were able to play out the entirety of her cards. Now, to refine this even more, what I'm thinking of is getting the one card that increases the damage, damage amount of exhaust cards that one Hue, I think Precision Strike or the like, you know what I mean? And that is play this card before we play the Hue line, just because we are going to be playing the entirety of the Hue line anyway, might as well get even more value out of it. So here we have our Quantum Seed, we again get ourselves a bunch of AP, get some more AP, and yeah, we get the form upgrade. In this case we're actually going to get 2 draw, pay 1, and also then here have the increased damage amount of 120%, as well as once again have our Fighting Spirit in hand. Again, it looked like cards got teleported into a hand, which they kind of did. And this should be a really good turn in showcasing to you how much AP you actually will have at your fingertips, and how you're only really limited by your own creativity in terms of what you do with all that AP. So here we're again going to go to the limit for the fight, play our first Hue right here. Then just trigger our form conversions, draw ourselves our 3 circuits, AP, AP, and no AP. Could have also been a different split, but that is what we're working with. So here we are once again going back up to 9. Play our first Hue, play our second Hue. Even here get the break on the boss, and that is because we're doing 3 tenacity bar damage every single time. There is not a boss in this game that is not going to be broken by this. so that here once again we can use our archetype here, use our fighting spirit to go into our final version. There you can see we have the final version, we have our archetype, and also in this case we're just going to use the partner skill to draw ourselves one more exhaust card, so that we have in fact played the entirety of Few in just one turn, and there even still was another quantum seed left for us to play, that if we should have ended up playing this quantum seed, we would have gotten even more AP, right? Like, I mean, like a hand like this, right? So we're just starting into this with AP, even more AP. And also, if you manage to play out the entirety of your deck, your next turn is going to be a lot smoother, because you're not going to be drawing into any of these archetypes anymore. So we're just currently speedrunning things here, right? Because it's the final turn. But just because I kind of want to show you the utterly ridiculous amount of AP that we actually have at our fingertips right here. And then once again more AP, and we could also at any point in time decide to switch over to just creating circles instead. What we could or creating triangles so that we can get the damage buff. What we can also do is we can just swap over and decide, okay, now all of a sudden I want to get myself these squares, and then use the squares to draw out the remaining archetypes to make sure that our deck is entirely free of these archetypes. So here, for example, this event horizon in this case gives us more AP. We already have more AP than what we know we do with. You see, we are at the cap of 9. So, for example, this would be 1 AP, this would be AP, this right here is going to give us more cards. Surprise, surprise, this would be 2 more AP, this would be 1 AP, this would be 2 more AP. And then as well right here, we draw ourselves more cards. So this would be hypothetically more AP. All of this AP obviously going, into the bin, you could say, because we are not really able to go past 9, as I told you before, but just, I guess for visual effect and for my own satisfaction, because I'm a little sad that it doesn't go past, and I just wanted to show you how to waste some AP. So for the Mega AP variant, you're really only limited by what can you think of to do with all that AP, because keep in mind, playing the entire row of a Hue is by no means the limit. You probably can generate, I don't know, maybe 20 AP or so in a singular turn, give or take, it depends. But especially if you want to play like a bigger 9 deck, a 9 deck like this, for example, is also totally fine, where you have yourself the experience strike for the amount of damage increase and just more fighting spirits. Keep in mind, every fighting spirit saves you 2 AP, so it's not that important that you're always creating so much AP to play these cards at their cost. The only exchange is that Hues activated through Fighting Spirit do not stagger. They don't stagger, they don't break the break bar or tenacity bar as much. They only break it as if they were a 0 cost instead of a 3 cost card. So, final thoughts on the AP build is indeed just that. You are really only limited by what you can think of. If you want to, substitute or help this kind of style deck even more, you just want to maybe get like a bit of a character that just can give you a bit of additional draw just to get over like these little hurdles that can sometimes happen. What you should also do if you intend to go for this is try to experiment with sometimes like picking circle for the most part, but sometimes picking a triangle so you get more damage boost, or maybe even picking the squares so that you can draw more of the already created circuits out of your deck, allowing for a smoother experience and less draw needed. Because to a degree, if you draw into a archetype instead of a playable card with a draw effect, it's a bit of a dead draw, and there's only so many of those that a form conversions with double effect can in fact draw. So that is pretty much that, and now let's get into the final version. So the final version of 9 that of Tiphera that I kind of want to bring near and dear to your heart is the Retain version. Now, the Retain version requires you to get as many of the Retain Quantum Seeds as possible, get yourself the Form Conversions Retain, which allows you to make sure that none of your created archetypes ever touch your draw pile, because they will all pretty much be drawn instantly, allowing you to keep your deck thin, keep your deck clean, while still getting majority value from these Quantum Seed generations. And also this one is a lot of fun, the dual creation, which for the first 5 times you draw any, you duplicate them, which gives you even more flashy archetype moves. But it's something I came to like think about overall. If I were to redo this deck, I would probably rather try to get myself either the 2 version, so that every 6 archetypes we're getting 3 archetypes back, or maybe even playing around with the retain version. Then again, it puts it into your hand, whereas this one puts it into your discard pile. So these ones you'd have to draw, but that isn't a problem because you are creating a bunch of squares, whereas these ones, they would be put in your hand, but they at least still have retain. What you could also try is maybe something like the square version. There's a lot of interesting potential in here, maybe even the dual creation right there. The possibilities are truly kind of endless. But let me actually use this rather empty deck to just show you visually what you can expect from this retain deck and why I'm such a big fan of it. And it's not just about the card draw that this retain thing brings to the table. What also really works wonders is the ability to change. The ability to change the cards that you have into your hand into whatever you desire, because you are guaranteed to change into a different archetype. So once again, we're going to start our turn out here with a Ebony Lumen. So then you see right here, this Ebony Lumen in this case is part of the Tiphera's kit right here. We're just going to use Expert Opening. It's not relevant for what I'm showing you here, it's just so I can make some hand space. And then this next time we use Resonating Darkness, because it would be 1 AP we'd have to spend this turn on the card. Creation and Destruction, just so it's out of the way. Dual Creation, pretty much similar. And then a Broken Lumen, just so we can, get this stuff going. So, kind of a bit of a mistake you could say that I've made right here is obviously I've let myself run down to no AP, which would have been a lot more efficient if we were to just play the Quantum Seed instead. But as I said, right, it's not like I've been able to fully refine the third deck yet. Maybe you even have some crazy ideas. But we're just going to use this right here, these neck times, to just make sure we clean out our deck. And then you see something that is pretty, in my opinion, pretty visually pleasing. So let's make sure we get our hand size down to as close as possible. And here we go. So we use 1 Quantum Seed, which creates 1 card, which then draws the other cards, where then our trigger for our... see, this is kind of what I meant, right? It's very hard to manage hand sizes with the dual creation. Like it's very visually imposing, but I kind of forgot to majorly like consider the hand size as a factor. So for example, let's see if we actually went down. Yeah, we went down by 3 stacks, but we only got 1 of them in exchange. And what I like to do for this deck here, if possible, obviously we use up a bunch of cards so we still have some more hand size. But if possible, I use up the circles and I keep everything that's not a circle so that I can use form conversions onto those cards to turn them into something else. So here we're just getting the free boost, getting the free buffs. You can see we are stacking up a bunch of AP as well. And here once again we are creating all the cards. We get all the cards in our hand. And you can see at this point dual creation is already tapped out, which is kind of what I meant with it's probably better to find a different dual creation, because you would be able to draw so many of them. There's so much value to be gained out of it. And just to like showcase the like transforming aspect and how I would use it. It is pretty much just like that. I use the circle version. Everything that's not a circle we can then use to try and turn into a potential circle, or even into a triangle for an additional damage buff or more AP. So yeah, honestly you just get so much stuff, so much in terms of shield, so much in terms of healing, so much in terms of like potential card draw, card interactions, so many things that like are happening at the same time. If you want to combine this deck with something, I would probably recommend you trying to combine this with a 9 that has a Flash Epiphany. So that would be like the last few remaining touches to this deck. but I hope you were at least able to see a bit of the greatness of what this deck is meant to be. Then again, let's see if we can get one like proper show off of the the visual effect of this card. So this would just replace itself, that'd be fine. So let's just use Quantum Seed here. You see we draw ourselves 3. All of them get duplicated. Obviously, due to hand size, only one of them. One of them is missing. But you can see we got in exchange, for example, Archetype and Healing. So here, this here can go. This Archetype can go, and we can once again just basically magically create resources without even really having to count what exactly we are looking at. So let's just run it as well right here. Bam, bam. You see we have a bunch of different cards that are all very much not a circle. So that means they can all go into potentially a circle. And that's what we're going to do right here. We're going to use our form conversions, turn all of them, and you see we already gained ourselves 2 additional AP right here. And one of the main reasons why I did this in the first place is because of the fact that if you use dual creation to duplicate something and then to cut a stat, and then you use the retain effect, you change them back into whole cards. You change them back into full cards, which I might have put more emphasis on, more focus on than I actually should have. Now that I think about it, right? But dual creation. That's kind of like the missing piece to really make what we are looking at here. Go nuclear. So I hope you enjoyed this showcase of 3 different but also somewhat same playstyles of Tiphera. Again, for the retain version, it still needs a lot of refinement, but I think this has so much potential there in creating a bunch of cards, drawing yourself a bunch of cards. And that is also mainly due to the fact that you are not putting these quantum seeds that you get from the retain version into your draw pile. No, they all go into your hand, meaning every single time you get yourself a square, that also means the square doesn't have anything to do, the square doesn't have anything to draw, and that is where it would come in to have the 2 creation, so that after 2 cards you create 3, and that allows these the squares to draw more cards, allowing you to overall play more cards, and should in the long term pretty much give you more value. So I'd probably recommend the 2-cost one, but you can obviously play one with the 3-cost one, or maybe even the square version as well. But if you have anything else crazy, if you have any ideas and the like, let me know down below and let others know as well. And as always, we see each other in the next one. Peace!